Good morning everybody, welcome to the show today. Something a little different today. We're going to do a little bit of turning. Now I haven't turned for a long time, so if I make a mistake, hey, c'est la vie. That's the way it's going to work. So we'll get started, and welcome to those who haven't been on the show before today. So hopefully you get something out of the show. Okay, where we were last week. Last week I showed you a couple of different techniques on, we'll just get a bit of camera in here. Oop. Your camera has died, unplugged. So, and then we'll get back to it. We'll get back to that bit anyway. Right. So what I did was I put an inlay, you can see that on there, in the top of one of our the fronts of our boxes. And then I also used one of a specialty router bit, and I cut a bead in the top edge of a different box. Now I had two of those beads, this small one and the large one. So I've cut both of those. So I'm going to show you those a little bit later as soon as Pammy gets herself plugged in there. We'll give it a try. So hang on to your hats, folks. We're just going to give that a shot. There we go, we're back. Now as you can see, these are the two beads. You can see there is a significant difference in the sizes, and this one here much smaller and that one's a little bit larger. You can make up your mind as to whether you want to use the large ones or the small one. And then of course we have the little inlay that we did. Now I was going to do a triangular inlay, but I never got to time to do that, so we're going to I'm not going to go into that at this stage. What we want to do is we want to focus on the knobs that we use on the draw pulls that we show, that we put on the cases, on the cabinets. So just swing around here, Pammy, I'll show these ones here. So what we have here is I've got two different versions of knobs on the constructed cabinets. So this little one here has quite a nice little turned out Mikasa ebony knob. Okay, I've got the same one on the door of the cabinet here, and then I've got a purchased one, a bought one on that. Right now, finding small ones like that is pretty hard. So that's why I sort of tend to go towards making them myself. So it's a lot easier if you sort of spend a bit of time, and if you're going to make them, I've got a commercial lathe. You can do them on any sort of lathe, a small lathe, just on the little benchtop lathes will do the trick. Depends on, you know, what you have. You can actually use a drill press or a drill to make these little knobs or little draw pulls. But first of all, you've got to come up with a plan. Okay, so you need a design. So I'm going to draw a couple for you and just show you where I go and how I get there to get the results. Okay, so we go onto there. These are the drawings that I did last week on what to do on the front of the drawers. So obviously that's what they are. Now the draw pulls. A straight draw pull will look like that. Okay, so it'll have a little step in it, and that little step will be where that recesses into the drawer. Right, so you could have a little straight one like that. So that's not a problem. So starting with that, you can then go into creating, and remember this is going to be based on your skill level as well, creating a different style of draw knob. Okay, so I've got that on the top. We could just take a little curve out of there and we could have a little step. Okay, to rub out the other bits. And we end up with something like that. Or we can do...
Head's in the way.
Oh, head's in the way, sorry. Something like this. Okay, so that's quite a nice shape. Or we can do what we've done on the cabinet, which is pretty much that one there, but we've brought the okay, so as you can see, going over various things, you can, it keeps clicking out of focus every now and then, but never mind. You get the idea. So we can have a little play with all of those sorts of designs. Now, I've come up with some designs, and I've built a couple anyway. Just going to show you how it goes. But I want to go over, take that out of there, and Pammy's still on the air, so we're all good. Now here's another couple of different types of commercial ones. Don't know if you can see that. You can see that it's got a little groove in the bottom of it, and it'll just sit on like so, and then you pull that. Now that comes in silver and black. Now you can get those from any hardware store. The problem with that is though, that they come with a screw that long. Now when you're thinking about your drawer and fitting it into your drawer, the drawer's only that thick. Okay, so you're going to need substantial cutting session to get those to fit properly. So that is probably a problem. Okay, so you'll need to do that. Now what I've also done is I've built myself a set of ebony knobs. Okay. Now they're only going to be 15 millimeters from the end to the end, so they are quite small. So we are doing some quite small work. Now they're all individually made. They're not what you would say identical. And if you have a look at my hewn ones, I've made a couple out of hewn pine as well. They're not identical, but that doesn't matter. If you want them identical, well then you've got to make yourself a little template, and hopefully your skill level is on the lathe is up to getting them all right, or getting them all exactly the same. So there's some of the variations, and when you look at this one here, you can see that it's a different shape as well. So there's a number of different things that you can do. So they're all turned. So as you can see, quite a different in all of those. Okay. So when you've made up your mind as to what you're going to do, you then have to work out what you're going to do with what sort of material you're going to use. Now, like I've shown you here, I've got ebony and hewn pine in my setup here. Basically because I want ebony on my cedar ones and hewn pine on the rose mahogany box that I've built as well. So I'm going to make a set of hewn pine ones anyway. And then I'll show you how to fit these and go through the sizing. So we'll go over to the lathe in a sec, and I'll get started over there. So it's just a matter of making sure that you're set up properly. Tools should be sharp, and then we'll take it from there. So let's over to the lathe, and we've got camera. We'll see how we go here. Okay, so all I've got here, like I said, I've got a commercial lathe here. This is a Vic Mark 300. You can do this on a small lathe. So I've got my spur drive set up in my 4-jaw chuck. Incidentally, that's just a magnet on top of the lathe there that holds that in place, and it's not going to lose it or anything like that. So I've got my spur drive set up. All I need now is a piece of material. So piece of hewn. It's not very big. don't need to have it a huge piece of material. And turn myself a shaft, a spindle. So, as I said, skill level has changed a little bit over the years, so I'm not quite sure if I'm going to get it right. There's lots of people who are doing turning, so I'm sure there's lots of people who have different ideas on how this should be done. This is just my way of doing these. Turn it around, just do the other end. Okay, so I've got a shaft, basically just a spindle. Okay, so I've made it thin enough so it'll fit inside the chuck. So it's just a matter of take it out of the chuck now. And quite a nice piece of hewing. Shift that up into there. Now I could just bring it out to there and then bring the tailstock up to it, but I'm going to be working on the end of it, so I'm just going to feed that into the headstock there a little bit. And then I need to face off the side, because the front of it, you can see on the front there, you've got a little hole in there. We need to get rid of that. So I'm just going to face that off with a spindle gouge. I'll just shift my tailstock out of the way. I could slide it back, but I got all the stuff on the end of it. So when I do the end of the knob, you can see I've just rounded over the end of it, just a tiny little bit. What I need to do now is put some measurements on here. Now the length of the knob is 15 millimeters from that part there. So the measurement is 15 mil. Just need to go and get one of my other knobs to the left. So that's what we're going to make. As you can see, I've got a diameter on there and I've got a diameter here. I'm not too concerned about the diameter at the bottom of the pull, but this here has to be around about 8 mil. So I've set up my vernier calipers to give me that diameter. I've got another set that sets up that diameter, and I have a third one that sets up this diameter. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is I want to use this one and get my diameter right, and that will go right through to the end of the go back in there. So it's just a matter of using a spindle gouge now. I'm cutting backhand. If I was cutting forehand, I'd be in the way of the camera, so we're right there. So we've got the right size on the top. parting tool. Sorry about the noise. Just need to check that one. It's a little bit too big, so just take a bit more off it. Let's check it. Pretty much spot on. Okay, now just get my shape. Now I have a tool here that I've made from a power hacksaw blade. I made this some years ago and it gives me a really nice clean cut. To back off a little, Pammy, I can't see. Pammy's very enthusiastic about this one.
Very nice and close, so
Get it close to get a good view of it. Not identical to the other one, but it's pretty close. And sometimes that's all that matters. A little bit of sandpaper. Not that you need a lot if you do your cutting right. And then we have a look. It's a bit thinner, but they're still okay. It's basically the same shape. A bit more sanding, just with a bit of 1000. It's always a good idea to make them all at the same time rather than spending a day between making. Just take that off there. Okay, and so there we have our draw pull. Okay, so they're fairly simple, fairly easy to make, and copy up a design. There's no special plans or anything like that. So when you've got that one made, it's just a matter of doing exactly the same thing. Okay, so I'm a little close to the chuck there, so I think what I might do is just slide that out a little bit, and there we go. Quite a simple operation, just making sure that you've got enough material to do the whole job. There was a time when I didn't have to stop the lathe to check the diameter. But like I say, over time, it's been a long time since I've done any serious turning. 15mm. So I can use this technique as well. Just cut. That looks a better size. A little bit more. That looks pretty close. I'll take a little bit more off the diameter of the shaft. Just a little bit. The sandpaper I'm using here is just a piece of 400 because my chisels are nice and sharp, and that's the secret behind getting it working properly, is to make sure that your chisels are sharp. The skew that I had there before wasn't very good because I tried to rush it, and when you rush things you tend to make mistakes, and I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to show you that, so let's see if this right diameter here. We're not quite there yet, so I can just use my parting tool. Looks about 15. Right on it. So off with my little tool, and we just take that one off. So now when we look at the two of them, we got a better shaping, okay? So they look a little bit closer together than that other one that I made. This one's a little bit too thin, but that doesn't matter. That still looks, it's got the same shape, and then once you've put it on there, it's going to look okay. Some people like the agricultural look. Other people need to have everything exactly perfect. So what you need to do is just sort of work out where you're at with your design work. Okay, so back to the bench. And there we have 5 little knobs, and when you put them all together, they don't look so bad. Okay, so that's what will end up looking like. So now we have to do a little bit of fitting. I just want to do the ends of them. This is how I fix the end of them. So just over to my sander. And the end of it nice and smooth. so. And there we have two sets of knobs. So, fitting. Now this is my cabinet. Where everything goes. Now we have to dress these up, so they've got to be exactly the same size as the outside of the cabinet, because I don't want an overlap. Okay, I just want it to be flush with the edges, and as you can see, they're not very smooth either, so we just need to dress those up a little bit, and we'll do that with a shooting board. Have to find it. It's up here somewhere. Oh, it's on the bench. Now I need to be really careful that we don't split the end of this. Grab my little end plane. So, a little bit of a chamfer on the end. I might actually use my bigger plane on this. Chamfer on there, and just so I don't take too much off the corner. Back this off a little bit. As you can see, coming up nice and smooth. A little bit more. Just a bit more. I haven't got my plane set very much. It's very fine. As you can see, the shavings are very, very small. There's not very much there at all. A little bit more. Nice. Okay. So that's flush on there. Just need my pencil to draw the other side. So I've got to take off you can see I've just got a very small amount of material that I have to take off there. So I'm going to go over to the drop saw and actually the drop saw won't work today. I think I might try just planing that off. Take a little chamfer off the end of it. A bit more. More. I'm just chamfering it down to the line. And I might just come up a bit. Take a bit more off it. Just got a tiny little bit of overlap there, which isn't bad. Beautiful. Now fitting the knob. What I want to do is just find the best position for it. Because if you sit the knobs on here, a little above centre, because all the drawer sizes are different size, all the drawer fronts are a different size. I'll find the right, I've put one down and I don't know where it are. There it is. Nope, that's not the right one. Try this one. You can see the distance between the bottom of, if you've got it evenly spaced along there, you need to work out where you want all your drawer pulls. Now, do you want them further down or do you want them in the middle of the drawer? You've got to work that out. Now, I prefer to have in the middle of the smaller drawers. So it's in the middle of the smaller drawer fronts, and then this one here a little bit above centre. Okay, so this one is going to be the one that we're going to fiddle with last. All the rest of them will be in the centre. So that's where all my drawer pulls are going to be. So what I've done there is I've cut that to size. So now I have to work out where my centre is so that I can drill my hole. Now, the easiest way to do that is to work on the back. Because we've got a rounded edge on the top here, it's difficult to actually get an accurate diagonal mark so you can get a centre. So if you do it on the back, myself a ruler. The easiest way to get your centre, corner to corner. Okay, so that gives me a centre. Now it's just a matter of drilling the hole in the middle of that. So I'm going to put a pilot hole in there first. That will give me a centre. And the pilot hole is going to be tiny. The reason it's going to be tiny is because I'm going to use a spur drive bit or brad point bit to drill a hole from this side. And the reason I want to do that is I want a sharp edge around the hole. So I've got to have a nice sharp edge around the hole here so that when the piece fits into there, it won't sit up because it's got furry bits around the edge of the hole. Doesn't matter on the inside because the inside's going to be sitting in the drawer front, the drawer box. So my brad point bits. You don't need really expensive ones of these, but you do need to have, I think I have to have, find a 10-year-old teach me how to open the box, because they're generally child-proof. Okay, so my 8mm bit. The 8mm is actually a little bit too small, so 10mm a tiny little bit too big, and they don't make a 9mm unless you buy them individually. I think I have one floating around somewhere, I've just got to find it. .5. That's perfect. It's not a brad point bit, but it's going to do the job anyway. Pretty good. And there's the knob fitted to the drawer. Okay, so I'm not going to glue that in just yet. I'm going to leave it so that when I've got the drawer fitted, I can then put the drawer knob on it. But the drawer knob will come in handy when I'm trying to fit to the cabinet, pulling it in and out once I've got it, once I'm setting it. But in the meantime, I have to do all the rest of the drawers. This is something I probably could have done just tidy up one end. Nice and neat. this is where lots of time is involved. Just takes a little bit extra time. Perfect fit. Find my centre again. A little pilot hole. Might set up the second drill with that. There's another knob. It's a matter of working through them one at a time. A little bit more. You can see the shavings. If you look at the shavings, you can see that they're actually coming off really nicely. So the seed is actually quite good stuff to work with. It's a patience game, folks. Good. I believe Dave is doing a a bit more work on his table today, his coffee, his granddaughter's coffee table. I saw a picture of it the other day and it looks really, really nice. Nice blue colour that he has on it. So once we're done here, you can flick over to him and have a bit of a look. Join in the chat. Incidentally, if you haven't subscribed to our channel, sometimes that's a good idea. You can actually get some good information from it. And we're live every Sunday, so for those of you who have only just come in, they're starting to look nice. Don't forget to press the little bell. It'll give you a reminder that we're going to pop in on Sundays. The other thing is that if you have a look on, if you haven't done so yet, have a look on our site. You'll find that there are quite a number of projects that start from way back in November a year or so ago. And they're all colour coded, so easy to see, easy to watch. You can watch the whole program. Just have to press on videos. We're getting there. So we have 10 minutes. So what I'm going to do is we'll get the other knob fitted. The last one done, which is the big one. And like I said, I'm putting these in the center of the drawer. They're only small drawers. I'm going to put it in a little bit higher than center on the other drawer, on the last one, because it's a bit wider. I could set up the drill press to do all of these drillings, but it would mean I'd have to keep changing the drill bit every 10 seconds. Okay, one to go. This one's a bit bigger than the others. How's our comments going, Pammy? Anybody making any chat today? Okay, last little bit. Just take chauffeur off there. Just a little bit more. Still not quite on it. Now we've got it. Actually, I might have to take a tiny bit more off there, I think. It's just not quite doing the job. I knew this would be the hardest one. There we go. Okay, so now this one, I'm going to just come in on this one, Pammy. I'm just going to find the centre. Now I want to go probably 5 or 6 millimetres above centre. So if I draw a square line above my centre, like so, and then measure from that mark, well, let's make it 10 millimetres, just a little bit higher. It just looks a little bit neater. So it's going to sit there. You can see it's just a little bit higher. Actually, that's probably too high. Let's bring it back another 5. Let me sit it on there. That looks better. Okay. So, we drill that hole. The last one goes on. And there we have, and this is where we're going to call it quits today, because the next process is probably going to take me a whole of the hour, and that will be fitting the drawer fronts to the drawers and then starting the sanding process to get it finished. as you can see, looks quite nice. It looks very similar to this cabinet. Different shaped drawer pulls, of course, but very, very similar looking drawers. Okay, so each of those will be quite a nice fit. You'll see that this one here, I put that in the center. It just looks a little bit out of place in my opinion. So having it above center looks a little bit nicer. So we'll go from there. So that's what I'm going to do. So we'll call it quits there today. So that will be it for today. Now I hope I haven't put you to sleep today, but we did spend quite a bit of time on the, not as much time on the lathe as I thought we would. So at least we've got the drawer fronts finished. They're fitted to the right width. So we've got the right width on the drawers, and we've got all of the knobs actually fitted. So just a little bit of sanding before we actually glue the whole lot together. And next week what we'll do is we'll fit the drawer fronts onto the drawers, and then prep for sanding and putting a finish on. So we're getting really close to the end of the cabinet, and it's looking really, really good. And I'll have probably 2 or 3 of them at a stage next week where you can see the difference between different types of timbers and things like that, and the results you get from the types of finish that I'm going to use. So have a good week, everybody. And like as I said earlier, if you haven't subscribed yet, please do. And a couple of thumbs up wouldn't go astray. So we'll see you all next week. So have a good week, and toodaloo.